Did you know that India is a member of a regional body called BIMSTEC, which together accounts for 22% of the world's population? Did you know that the intra-BIMSTEC trade spurted ninefold to $36 billion in the 2 years ended 2022? Though this is way below its potential. Hello and welcome to another edition of Capital Calculus. I am your host Anil Padmanabhan. Last week, India played host to the first business summit of BIMSTEC. This mouthful of an acronym stands for the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral, Technical and Economic Cooperation. It was conceived in 1997 and its members are Sri Lanka, India, Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Myanmar and Thailand. The obvious question to ask is, why did it take this regional outfit set up way back in 1997 to hold its first business summit this year? The unflattering answer is it was a victim of neglect. However, now there seems to be some kind of a rethink underway, not just by India but among most member countries. And the upcoming Leadership Summit, due in Bangkok in early September, provides a fresh opportunity for BIMSTEC to regroup and reboot. Will then the Bangkok rendezvous be the turning point for BIMSTEC? To answer this and more, I spoke to Sachin Chaturvedi, who is the chairman of Research and Information Systems. It's a Delhi-based think tank which is closely involved with the BIMSTEC project. I began by asking Sachin why it took BIMSTEC 27 years to organize its first business summit.
See, there are two things which are important here. First and foremost, with change of government in 2014, greater attention on BIMSTEC has come in. The governments have consistently provided support. Now, in 2024, in last 10 years, several exchanges among the top leadership of BIMSTEC, the summit that has traveled from Nepal to India's retreats that have happened, the two retreats that foreign ministers hosted, and also the Sri Lanka summit in 2022, and then now the Thai summit, the Bangkok government would be hosting it. So you find a greater traction and reason for the business community to see the seriousness that governments are attaching. And now many other small sort of groupings are coming up, like for instance, if you recall in Colombo summit, we launched what was called as the BIMSTEC technology transfer facility, and also the MOU that was signed for mutual cooperation between diplomatic academies. The idea of bringing in trade agreements together, the FTA traction. So governments' emphasis, their initiatives are encouraging all other actors, including business community, to come forward, and CII summit is the first step in that direction.
So, Sachin, the trade between intra BIMSTEC has grown pretty steeply. It between 20 and 22, it grew by something like ninefold to $36 billion. Yet the FTA continues, to drag its feet, as it were. I mean, why is it that they can't get closure on it?
There are three reasons for this. As I was mentioning earlier, 22 rounds of FTA discussions have happened, and last meeting of negotiations happened in 2018. And there is need to revive FTAs and bring in the dynamism that the community is actually looking at. The idea is largely in terms of bringing business leaders together and do a sort of a cooperation that is feasible, effective, and gives mutual traction in the area. Now you are realizing that as global trade is almost 72% of the global trade is in parts and components. It is in semi-finished products. uh, BIMSTEC is no exception. More and more semi-finished parts of a specific final product, they are coming in as part of this effort. So from that perspective, it is largely in terms of creating new traction for the trade integration to happen. So countries are realizing that their integration level has gone beyond FTA, because if you see with Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Nepal, we already have the SAFTA agreement. They are all part of SAFTA. They also have duty-free, quota-free access to Indian market. Bangladesh is an exceptional country in the world for Indian trade scenario. They have almost 98% of tariff lines covered under our bilateral agreement. With Thailand, we already have early harvest scheme. Thailand and Myanmar both are part of India ASEAN FTA. So you find multiple trading arrangements which bring down to the de facto BIMSTEC FTA framework, which is very much in place through SAFTA and through ASEAN FTA. So there is not so much sort of to be left as a common FTA to come in. Though if it comes up, there is no major issue. What I feel now that is holding back our trade integration is that standards, how we meet each other's standards and bring in convergence. So I think they don't need FTA; they probably need mutual recognition agreement (MRA), and that MRA about products, about services, would bring in the quality support that all of them require at some level, and that's where the crux for BIMSTEC region lies.
So, Sachin, tell me something because you are so closely associated with this BIMSTEC project. What is the potential that you foresee if, assuming all these nuts and bolts are finally in place?
See, there is a great potential, Anil, in this. First and foremost, the revival of business and economic forum that they have, the coming up of the BIMSTEC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the role of SMEs, the CEO forum, they all help in terms of creating investment and FDI inflows within the region. The potential that is there is because of economics of neighborhood backed by specialization, like the garment sector in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka. They have natural complementarity in terms of branding and further exports that are there, both for India and also abroad. But the cotton yarn comes from India to all of them, whether the units are in Colombo or in Dhaka. They all depend on us. Similarly, agriculture food products. ITC is assessing and trying to see how food value chains can come up, and four sectors they have identified. The Pran group of Bangladesh has identified seven such tracks with India. The Cement Corporation is working out with them. As suggested by Prime Minister, there is now a group working on South Asia energy grid. So you find n number of possibilities to strengthen the architecture. Japan has supported Sitwe port in Myanmar, and working very closely with two other ports, Mangala port and our own ports in Orissa and in Machilipatnam. So you find a whole track that is coming in. They also trying to see how they can take advantage of India's larger global designs. Like, for instance, there was a meeting we had a couple of weeks back with Bangladesh economists on IMAC, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, which was launched immediately after G20. So they are very keen how they become part of it. Chennai to Vladivostok, the eastern corridor that India is talking of. Again, Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, Bangladesh, all four are interested in joining that corridor. So, the larger designs of India to have West Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia energy grid, physical connectivity, and they are also trying to find alternatives to China. So that dimension is equally important for all the countries. Though they want to take advantage of China, but they do not want crucial one country based dependence on China.
Undoubtedly, BIMSTEC has enormous economic potential. I was curious to know whether the ongoing geopolitical developments would trip up this regional body, especially in the aftermath of the developments in Bangladesh, which led to a regime change.
I think even if some forces in Bangladesh are bringing in this geopolitics through larger design of superpowers and are creating these havocs in the region, the local leadership are realizing the value that they don't want to compromise. And I tell you, whoever comes in Dhaka would realize that their salvation is possible only with partnership with India, because people's aspirations have gone up. People want trade and business to grow. Few people controlling the social media or trying to create these kind of frictions among people and their minds can succeed for a moment. They may be able to have some success at some point, but all the time, because people's aspirations are very much bottoms up. They are not from the top. So this kind of friction that we are seeing in Bangladesh now is largely top driven and uh, misinformative and misleading. So I am sure bottoms up it would change.
So, Sachin, in the case of BIMSTEC, can you share some examples to explain how this value and supply chain is evolving?
There are two examples that I can straight away give you. First and foremost is the kind of standard that are required in terms of possibilities that we need. First, in the food sector, as I said, there are a lot of food items where value additions are possible, and these value additions, particularly in case of rice-based products, where final product requires bit of finish and rice-based preparations. Export destinations for which are in Japan. So are the prawn and prawn-based final products, which require specific sanitary and phytosanitary standards to be followed, which Myanmar or Bangladesh cannot meet. But within Bay of Bengal, we can do the final value addition in Chennai and the whole of the Tamil Nadu coast. Where such value additions are possible. As mentioned, some of Indian companies have specialized in this area and they want to prevail. So, fish and fish based products, paddy and paddy based products, even Bangladesh now is emerging as one of the major exporters of fruit juices. Now, their certification, refrigeration, packaging, some of our companies are now providing support to that. Uh, Similar value chains are coming up in generic firms, non-branded generic firms, where several of Indian pharmacists are supporting not only production but also packaging and export. So, if you see any other sector that shows vibrance in Bangladesh, other than textile items, hosiery items, it is the generic medicine. So you find that happening. Bhutan is also trying to capture on similar lines, and I'm sure once this value chain in the region comes up, it would give several examples. In case of Thailand, expertise is flowing out. Thailand, through their one district, one product scheme, already excelled during Takshin Srinivatra's time, and that has given huge leeway in terms of processed food exports. In fact, Thailand is one of the biggest food exporter in the ASEAN region.
And Sachin, is India leveraging its own prowess in digital public goods to offer it as a vehicle to further bond these countries like India has done with UAE, Singapore on the UPI framework? But are we looking at these options too?
Excellent question. If you recall, just before the G20 summit, India hosted what was called as Voice of Global South Summit, and we that summit again in 2024 after the G20 presidency was over to announce setting up of the Global South Center of Excellence, Dakshin. And this Dakshin is to share India's development experience with partner countries. Digital public infrastructure is priority for this center. They have signed some agreements with some countries, and we are ensuring that BIMSTEC countries are also beneficiary. With Sri Lanka, we have already signed agreement for RuPay. The digital payment architecture is being strengthened. Same was discussion going on with Bangladesh. I'm sure the new government would take that forward sincerely and would see the larger picture of their own citizens getting benefits of this technology that India has evolved, mastered, and is sharing with other countries, including several African countries. So I find DPI as one big support for not only payment architecture but also trade facilitation that would help us bring in the risk sort of buffering that is needed around our containers and their movement, because two of these countries are landlocked, both Bhutan and Nepal, and they require support in terms of our port facilities, tracking of cargo. So if we have DPI, it would be far more easier for them, and that would help reducing the diversion, because they claim goods coming from Nepal, but they hardly reach Nepal. They are diverted in Bihar and other parts of the country. So these diversions would be minimized. Duty evasions happening on name of trade diversion would be checked, they would be able to take maximum out of this partnership with India.
And this is a nice segue into my next question because the Leaders Summit is coming up in Bangkok next month and it's the first one since 2018. So, how do you see the prospects of this meeting because it takes place in a little bit of an inclement context about what's happening in Bangladesh?
No, you are right. We met digitally online for the Colombo summit in 2022. Again, the foreign ministers were hosted in India recently at the foreign ministers retreat. But yes, head of the states would be meeting after a gap, and this would give a scope for assessing aspirations, expectations, and also the gaps in our communication with Bangladesh and the new leadership. I'm sure BIMSTEC would go miles ahead in terms of bringing all the actors together. And I'm sure the opportunity that Prime Minister of India would get with the new head of Bangladesh government would be very important. And the fact that the BIMSTEC Secretariat is based in Dhaka, partnership with Bangladesh would be very crucial and important.
Sachin is right. The upcoming meet in Bangkok provides an excellent opportunity for Prime Minister Narendra Modi to open a dialogue with the new leadership of Bangladesh. This aside, it's also a great moment for the leadership of the BIMSTEC countries to regroup and reboot this regional outfit with enormous economic potential. But keep in mind that since 1997, since it's been a victim of neglect, this outfit has struggled. So the question is whether the Bangkok rendezvous is the turning point for BIMSTEC. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to StratNews Global on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates. And please do share your thoughts, ideas, and suggestions with us. I'm available on Twitter at Capital Calculus. I'll be back next week with another episode. Till then, stay safe.